ये जो देश है तेरा स्वदेश है तेरा तुझे है पुकारा ये वो बंधन है जो कभी टूट नहीं सकता
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the contribution of NRIs to India and the world, presented by the Indian Association of South Africa and in association with Sukhrit Wellness and Make in India. My name is Alok, and I'm here tonight to introduce all our panelists for today.
Our first panelist for today is Mr. Vijay Kumar, who currently works as a technical lead at KPMG in America. He is graduated with a BTech from IIT Kharagpur, and he is a founding member of Nav Prayas, which is a group of innovative thoughts. Nav Prayas is the reason behind creating a village of IITians in Bihar called Patwatoli. He also supports another NGO, Vrikesh, Be the Change, which is working towards not only transforming the village infrastructure, but also the villages themselves by various social activities on the street. He is very passionate in practicing and promoting spiritual heritage of India in America. Our next panelist is Mr. Subhash Chandra from Singapore, who is currently working as a reinsurance professional. But he's actually an actuary by profession. He has been working in Singapore for the last 9 years as a director in a multinational organization dealing with reinsurance. Prior to this, he has served in some high-level multinational institutions in India, such as the Reserve Bank of India. Subhash is also the president of a Toastmaster club, and he is actively involved in promoting Hindi in Singapore. A product of the Indian Statistical Institute ISI, Subhash has given his services of teaching in management institutes of India such as Narsi, Monzi, Amit, and BIM Tech. He's also the co-founder of a registered Vihangam Yoga Singapore organization, and recently, during the COVID time, he had organized a blood donation camp through Vihangam Yoga in Singapore to serve the society. He conducts daily meditation sessions for a group of people from South Asian countries. We also have with us today Mr. Abhinav Kishore, who's currently in Australia and is working as an IT professional. He's based in Sydney and is a staff product engineer at Atlassian. A technologist by trade, Abhinav's professional background in the fields of UX design and software development have enabled him to pursue his key passion, building software for the betterment of society. Over his career, Abhinav has contributed to the product development of Jira, Confluence, Atlassian ecosystem, and a number of platform initiatives. He's currently a founding product engineer in the New Products organization at Atlassian. Beyond his profession, Abhinav has contributed software solutions to a number of social organizations, including the UN-affiliated SSDY VYS, Vihangam Yoga Sansthan, Sukhrit Life, amongst others. He's also a prolific writer and speaker, and he hosts podcasts and online sessions as a meditation instructor of Vihangam Yoga for aspirants around the globe. Also with us today we have Mr. Simant Prakash from Kenya, who is a chartered accountant. He has over 17 years of experience in external auditing, tax advisement, risk management, and management consultancy services. He has multitudes of industry experience, including the sectors of healthcare, ICT, electronic manufacturing, industrial manufacturing, FMCG trade, hospitality, aviation, oil and gas, mining, plantation and horticulture, pharmaceutical, telecom, insurance, pension funds, biotechnology, healthcare, renewable energy sector, DFIs, NPOs. He also has a plethora of experience in a multitude of countries, including India, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, Swaziland, UAE, Belgium, UK, Canada, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Mauritius. Currently, he is the Africa Program Coordinator of Sadhguru Sadafaldeo Vihangam Yoga Sansthan, an organization under special consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council since 2013. He currently also works as a managing partner in 5 Elements Advisory. And finally, we have Dr. Manish Gupta, who is currently in Belgium working as a research scientist. He works in the field of research and development of vaccine and biological drugs with currently GlaxoSmithKline, also known as GSK, which is a British multinational. Until recently, he was working with Pfizer on the COVID vaccine. He has also worked with other multinational companies like Janssen Pharmaceutica and Reliance Industries Limited. By education, he is a chemical engineer who has obtained his PhD in engineering science from KU Leuven, Belgium, and has received his master's degree in chemical engineering from IIT Madras. In the past, he was selected for the post of Group A Gazetted Scientific Officer in prestigious Baba Atomic Research Center, Mumbai. Apart from his professional life, he is much more active in promoting the ethos and culture of India across European countries in the form of spreading the wisdom of Vedas, Gita, Upanishad, Surved, Ayurveda, Yoga, and meditation. He is also the co-organization of Sanskrit International Webinar, which was held in October 2020, in collaboration with All the Arts College, Ahmedabad, where scholars and philosophers from 87 countries participated. This event was inaugurated by eminent personalities like the Governor of Gujarat, Acharya Devrat ji, Anandiben Patel ji, and Baba Ramdev ji. He was invited as a speaker in the International Gita Jayanti webinar, which was held on the 14th to the 31st of December 2021, where Sanskrit philosophers from all over the world participated. This event was also organized by LD Arts College, Ahmedabad. He was also the co-organizer of 21 Kundia Vedic Havan in Paris for the first time in the history of France, where people of Indian origin and French society participated to promote the science behind Havan Yajna and Bharatiya Sanskriti. He has also co-organized a support rally for the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 in front of the European Parliament with indirect support from Indian Embassy, Brussels. He was also actively involved in the roadshow organized by the Ministry of Tourism India and Incredible India in Nordic and European countries in May and October 2018 for the promotion of Kumbh Mela in the world. And finally, our host for today is Mr. Amit Shivaji from South Africa. He is a mechanical engineer by profession and currently working for South Africa's largest parastatal company, Transnet, on a critical project in management position. Before joining Transnet, he has worked with United Heattrons for Nasik, L&T Heavy Engineering Mumbai, Emirates National Oil Company in Dubai, etc. in management positions. He is a member of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, SciMech, and the Health and Ergonomics Society. He is a great philanthropist and has studied various streams of yoga and holds several certifications in Ashtanga Yoga and Naturopathy. Currently, he is heading various positions in India and South Africa. He is the president of Vihangam Yoga South Africa and founder of the Sadaful Foundation SA NPO. He is the founder of the Indian Association of South Africa and founder of Marathi Mandal Durban and the co-convener of PIOCCI South Africa. Some of his more notable achievements is that he represented Make in India in Africa Petrochemical Expo, South Africa. He has participated in African Summit 2015 at Delhi, India, from South Africa with 50 other African countries. He has led Ushering and Welcoming Committee for the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Durban with the Indian Consul at eThekwini Municipality and MEA in July 2016. He has been a guest lecturer on stress management at Max Planck Institute, Germany, for scientists. He has conducted hundreds of sessions on stress management by Vihangam Yoga techniques around the globe, including India, Germany, France, Kenya, Zambia, UAE, and America. He has also attended Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2019 with the South African delegation and presented paper with the PIOCCI on education and skills. Now that everyone has been introduced, I will hand you over to our host for today, Mr. Amit Moreji.
Good evening, welcome, namaste, namaskar, vanakkam, sang bonani, dumelan, salam walaikum, sat sri akal to all the viewers. Welcome to the webinar on contribution of NRIs to India and the world. I would like to play the song from Purab and Paschim by Manish Kumar, which keeps inspiring all the NRIs. There are many patriotic songs, but this is one of the songs which is very favorite and very close to my heart.
जब जीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने मेरे भारत ने दुनिया को तब गिनती आई तारों की भाषा भारत ने दुनिया को पहले सिखलाई, देता न दशमलव भारत तो यूं चांद पे जाना मुश्किल था। धरती और चांद की दूरी का अंदाजा लगाना मुश्किल था। सभ्यता जहां पहले आई, सभ्यता जहां पहले आई, पहले जन्मी है जहां पे कला। अपना भारत वो भारत है जिसके पीछे संसार चला, संसार चला और आगे बढ़ा, यूं आगे बढ़ा बढ़ता ही गया। भगवान करे ये और बढ़े, बढ़ता ही रहे और फूले फले, बढ़ता ही रहे और फूले फले।
Let's welcome our panelists, Sri Vijay ji from USA, Sri Simant Prakash ji from Kenya, Sri Abhinav Kishore ji from Australia, Sri Manish Gupta ji from Belgium, and Sri Subhash Chandra ji from Singapore.
Namaste, Amit ji. Special regards to other panelists as well. Simant Prakash ji from Kenya, Subhash Chandra ji from Singapore, Abhinav Kishore ji from Australia, Manish Gupta ji from Belgium. My regards to everyone and also all the viewers.
Namaste, everyone. My name is Abhinav. As mentioned, it's lovely to be here. I want to extend my greetings also to Mr. Vijay ji, Simant Prakash ji, Subhash Chandra ji, Manish Gupta ji, and of course our organizer Amit ji. To all the panelists, all the people who are tuning in, very warm greetings all the way from over in Australia.
Namaste, Amit ji. Thank you very much to you and your team of Indian Association of South Africa for inviting me here. I want to thank Sukrit Wellness who is supporting this event as well. Let me also send my warm greetings to other panelists, Mr. Subhash Chandra ji from Singapore, Mr. Vijay ji from US, Mr. Abhinav Kishore ji from Australia, and Mr. Simant Prakash ji who is based in Kenya.
Namaste everyone, and thanks to Amit ji and Indian Association of South Africa for organizing this discussion on contribution of NRIs to India and the world at large on this great occasion. It is indeed my pleasure and privilege to join and share the dais, with my co-panelist Vijay ji from USA, Subhash ji from Singapore, Dr. Manish from Belgium, and Abhinav ji from Australia.
Namaste, Amit ji, and namaste to all the panelists. Vijay ji from USA, Simant ji from Kenya, Abhinav ji from Australia, Dr. Manish from Belgium. First of all, I'd like to thank Amit ji for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this webinar. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure. And congratulations to you and Indian Association of South Africa for hosting this webinar, Contribution of NRIs in the World and to India.
My first question to all the panelists is contribution of NRIs to the country wherever they are staying. We all know that non-resident Indians, wherever they stay, they work very hard. They have a lot of good qualities. They are very humble. They are focused in their work. And also, as soon as they get stable, they start businesses, they create employment, and there are various other contributions of Indians. But now, specifically, I want to understand from you, what are the contribution of the NRIs in your country?
Contribution of NRIs to Australia. So I think when it comes to the contribution of NRIs to Australia, what really comes to mind for me is there's just a few, I think I'll just take two stats, which are quite compelling when you consider this. First is that if you look at the the breakdown of skilled migrants in Australia, the fastest growing segment is actually Indians. So I think that says a lot about how much the Australian people and the nation as a whole values the contribution of Indians to the economy and to different industries. So just to keep it short, I think in 2020 we saw 750,000 Indian-born individuals in Australia, which is a huge number. I would assume that's reaching 1 million at some point soon. And there's a number of highly technical fields where Indian individuals are contributing a lot. So you've obviously got research advancements in the field of medicine is one huge area. Personally, for myself, I know I had the opportunity to contribute to the Victor Chang Cardiac Research Institute one in my last few years of university. And I saw that there was a huge percentage of Indian researchers helping researchers from Australia and Harvard and a lot of these very well regarded universities to come to answers on very critical medical questions. There's also obviously the fields of science and engineering. I myself am in the field of software engineering and product development, product engineering. I have a lot of friends and a lot of colleagues who have families and who know extremely reputed skilled Indians in different fields such as civil engineering. There's a lot of infrastructure work going on in Australia. As many of you may know, a lot of Australia is actually desert. So most of the population is actually across the coast. So there's as the climate changes, as we discover more regions that actually can be used for housing and suburbs and urban development, a lot of infrastructure development is going on in different towns and cities across Australia. So a lot of civil engineering comes into place there, a lot of obviously electrical and mechatronic engineering, which, there's huge numbers of skilled Indians contributing to these fields. Also, I think for Australia in particular, being such a huge country where especially there's a lot of solar energy, we have a lot going on in the renewables space as well. Maybe not as fast as we'd like, but we have a lot going on in that space, as well as in mining, of course. So the contribution of Indians to photovoltaics engineering, also the contributions of even the partnership between the Indian and Australian governments in some of these areas has helped accelerate a lot of the goals that Australia has as a nation. And I just want to keep this last part short as well, which is I think also probably the contribution of NRIs can't just be seen on a professional level. There's also immense social impact, which the Indians in Australia are having. I know personally, I have seen and contributed to societies run by Indian individuals, which are doing extremely novel work, such as Vision 2020 is a good example if you've heard of that organization. They're an Australian-based organization, from my understanding, who help those who are blind to recover their eyesight. They build hospitals, eye hospitals, or they help those who are, I probably shouldn't say those who are blind, but those who have issues with their eyesight to help come back to a healthy state. Also, many not-for-profit organizations run by Indians, especially some to do with feeding the homeless. There's a huge number. And I think the last thing I'd really touch on is the arts and culture that kind of gets shared amongst Australians and Indians has shaped the nation in many ways. You can think of things like yoga, meditation, Ayurveda. These are ancient principles from our mother country, from India, and so it's beautiful to see people in Australia embracing these things and seeing how it actually evolves the way they approach their own lives, especially with a huge explosion in issues in mental health and things like that, we've seen immense benefit from many of these practices, which obviously originate from India. So I'd say the contribution of NRIs to Australia is immense, very hard to summarize. But to summarize, I'd say many highly technical fields rely on the expertise of Indian-trained engineers, scientists, doctors, and in terms of social impact, it's just everywhere. No matter where you go to Melbourne, you go to Sydney, you go to Adelaide, you go to Cairns, you go to anywhere in Australia, there are organizations run by Indians trying to help and serve humanity.
Contribution of NRI in Singapore. India and Singapore share long-standing cultural, commercial, and strategic relations, with Singapore being a part of Greater India, cultural and commercial reason. Singapore had always been an important strategic trade post, giving India trade access to the Far East. And even today, this journey continues. Singapore and India has a joint industry, shipping industry, where Singapore plays an important role for India for the shipping industry. Here in Singapore, NRIs contribute a lot to the shipping industry, and not just shipping industry has played a major significant role by the Indians, especially the NRIs in Singapore. When I arrived to Singapore, and I was going in a taxi, and it didn't happen just for once, it happened multiple times. Even it happens now. Whenever I go in taxi and one taxi driver asks me, Indian? Yes. IT? Okay, so that's the recognition of Indians here in Singapore, that any Indian is there in Singapore, he is connected with IT, the information technology, the infrastructure, everything contributed by the Indians. Today, Singapore is considered as one of the high-tech countries. Indians have played a major role for that infrastructure in Singapore. And that's why even every single normal person knows Indian means he is working in IT. And NRIs have contributed a lot. Lots of IT industries, lots of IT companies are here in Singapore who have helped Singapore industry to develop, to flourish in a much more modern way. Not just IT and shipping. If we talk about the ethnic culture of Singapore, I was amazed to see when I came to Singapore. Here in Singapore, there are 4 official languages: Chinese, Malay, English, and 1 Indian language, and that is Tamil. 4 official languages. If you receive any letter from a government, it comes in all those 4 languages. Tamil is one of the official language in Singapore. Singapore has 9% population from Indian origin. But when we say Indian origin, doesn't mean only those people who have come to Singapore recently. There are many people who came to Singapore in 18th century when the Britishers took them here. Since then, now they are part of Singapore. They are citizen of Singapore. They are permanent resident of Singapore, but there are many who are contributing to Singapore as a foreigner as well. And total, all these contribute to 9% population of Singapore, which is something around 500,000 in total for Indian origin people. Little India is a place which is the ethnic district in Singapore. The name itself says Little India. If you go there in Little India's area, you will not find that you are in Singapore. Actually, you are in India. In terms of many who came to Singapore, most of them are from southern part of the India, and that continues since 18th century, 1819, 1820. And even today, almost 60% of the Indian resident here are of ethnic Tamil side, Tamil speaking population. And more than half of the Singapore's ethnic Indians are Hindus. These are the ethnic beauty, the ethnic cultural, strong cultural effect of India on Singapore. But coming towards the trade side, coming towards the industry, coming towards the development in Singapore, in 2017, Singapore was India's fifth largest trading partner worldwide and third largest trading partner in Asian countries. So from here, we can understand that contribution of India and Indian origin people here in Singapore has always been significant, and this journey continues and will continue even future as well. Singapore is a second home for Indians. Every Indian probably would like to visit Singapore at least once, and they should come to Singapore to see the beauty of the country, to see the easiness, the discipline, the cleanliness, the corruption-free, almost corruption-free, the safest country, I would say, in the world. The currency is so high among all the Asian countries. It's a developed country, and that's how Singapore attracts many people from India to come. It just takes 4 to 5 hours to fly from India to Singapore, and that's why Singapore right now has so many Indian people. The community of Indians in Singapore has been always large. It's not just one part of the Indian communities available here in Singapore. There are many different types of communities from Maharashtra, Maharashtra Mandal, Kannada Sangh, Bengali Association, Gujarati Samaj, Marwadi community, Bihar and Jharkhand community, Gujarati community. There are so many different communities, societies available who contribute to Singapore to a larger extent. I was surprised to see one thing. Very recently, I came across to meet one person who actually bringing some of the cow products in Singapore from India. And that's such an incredible thing to hear and know about Singapore and the collaboration from
America. All of you would feel great to know that Indian came to East Africa more than 100 years back, when railways were being set up by the British Empire in this part of the world. And then, our Indians stayed over. And now, we have third and fourth generation Indians, thriving in East Africa. Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Can India and Tanzania, which have roots to general insurance companies, in India, have existed and supported the financial inclusion for the longest time in the East African region. Philanthropic initiatives like food distribution, education, healthcare have been part of the culture that has been passed to the next generation in this region. East Africa has a large and a growing base of Indian expatriates, and this Indian community has contributed back financially during COVID time. I'm sure all of you are already aware that India is the largest recipient of diaspora remittance of around $87 billion in 2021. Now, remember, there are many economies also whose GDP is not even $87 billion. So I think this level of liquidity injection, by the very patriotic Indian diaspora, really helped Indian liquidity and enabled cash transfer to low income earners during COVID lockdown, and also initiatives like purchase of oxygen cylinders when things were really tough in India during COVID.
Talking about the contribution of NRI in the growth of America, I would say it wasn't an overnight journey. About a century ago, a special commission which was established by the US Congress in 1911, more than a century ago, they presented a report that says that Hindus were universally regarded as the least desirable race of immigrants thus far admitted to the United States. So you can understand that the people migrating from India were not always welcome with open arms. But more than a century later, from Silicon Valley CEOs to White House power brokers and influential members of Congress to leaders in fields like journalism, health science, engineering, the emergence of the Indian diaspora is a remarkable coming of age story. In fact, it can be further understood by the statement by none other than the US President, Mr. Joe Biden. He once, sometimes in March 2021, he spoke with Swati Mohan, who was overseeing the landing of the Perseverance Mars rover landing. He spoke to her saying that it's amazing, Indian Americans are taking over the country. You, my Vice President Kamala Harris, whose mother was born in India, my speechwriter Vinay, he referred Vinay Reddy, you guys are all doing incredible. So what I'm trying to project here is, even though if you go by the percentage, even though the percentage of Indian immigrants are just 1.2% in the entire population of America, but the presence of NRIs, presence of Indian origin people are everywhere in US. In fact, if you follow there's a spelling bee competition, then almost from 1999, 73% of the winners have been Indian. I would like to highlight a fact which probably nobody would have spoken in that way, that, in America, the development of any place is also driven by the school rating. And the good thing about the Indian kids are that wherever they go, they start performing very well in the school, and the school rating goes up. So the place like Edison, which was once rated very low in the school rating, today is rated one of the top region for the kids' school. Now, when the school rating goes up, then the good people start migrating to that area because of the good school, and all the businesses starts settling over there. So any place where there's a high density of good people around, the kids who are doing good in school, the school rating is good, the real estate around that area improves, and then the business also starts opening their branches over that. So that way you would find that the Indians have contributed a lot in the growth of America. And not only that, in fact, I would say, for example, I'm in the IT field. I was working on a project which was very tight with the timelines. And initially, we had 4 years of deadline to complete that. But what happened was the 2 years was lost by working with some of the team members who were, of course, not from Indian origin. And later, HP took over that company. It was EDS before. HP took over that company. The first thing that HP did was they became very strict with the timeline about the delivery. And within about 2 months, whoever were non-Indians, they could not cope up with that strict timeline. And the team that were left to work in that project was all Indians. What does it mean? It means that Indians do not scare of the hard work. And that is the beauty, one of the quality of Indians across the globe. They are successful everywhere, also for the fact that they are open to take challenges and deliver. And in fact, when we were left with only 2 years to work on the same project with the same delivery, it was all the group of Indians. We worked together very hard and really made it possible. It was a state project for the Michigan state, and they were very delighted to see how these group of hardworking people made it possible. So yes, I would say in a nutshell that NRIs not only contribute in the Indian economy, which I'm going to talk later, but they have been contributing a lot in the American economy by being the backbone of all this development work, where they require a people of um, who can stay there, hardworking, meet the deadline. In fact, if you talk about the motels, there's so many motels are across all the states of the United States, and more than 50% of the motels are being owned by Indians. If you see, even the taxi drivers, the 30% of taxi drivers in New York City are of Indian origins. It simply means that Indians are not only looking for the top high collar job, but they are open to do anything, and that's what attracts all these people in America. All the business owners, they like about Indians because Indians are ready to do anything, and that is contributing a lot in the growth of America. Thank you.
This is a very interesting question regarding contribution of NRIs in European continent as a whole. This is a bit broad question, but to answer precisely. But let me tell you that there are major economies in European continent, like that of United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, etc. Among all these countries, the population of Indian diaspora in United Kingdom is huge, consisting of approximately 1.5 million people of Indian origin, and they constitute almost 2% of the Britain population. So now in UK, Indians have contributed significantly in the field of academia, literature, arts, medicines, science, industry, business, and of course politics. Now, some interesting highlights related to the contribution of Indian diaspora in UK. And this research is not my research. It has been done by Grant Thornton, which is the 7th largest accounting and consulting firm in the world. So now, according to them, the data says that there are more than 654 Indian-owned companies in UK, which have at least 100k pound 100k pound as an annual turnover, which has combined revenue of 37 billion pound. Now, these companies provide employment to UK, and the number is like more than 174,000 employment they provide to the people of UK. And also, these companies as a whole, the minimum they pay tax as corporate tax, which is like more than 1 billion in pound. So, and top 5 Indian companies are B&M Retail Limited, Vedanta Resources, Boparan Holdco Limited, Hinduja Automotive, HC1 Limited, etc. Now, not only this, Indians have also significantly contributed in the field of academia and medicine. 2 major names are Sir Venkataraman Ramakrishna, who was Indian-born American, and he was a British structural biologist who was awarded 2009 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. I'm sure you must be knowing about him. And he's currently the president of Royal Society of Chemistry. Another personality is Mr. Baron Professor Bhattacharya ji, who found manufacturing group in University of Warwick in 2004. And his contribution was so enormous, so big that he has been made a member of the House of Lords. Now, in politics also, Indians have contributed significantly in UK. Just like in India, we have a Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Similarly, in UK, they have a House of Commons, where more than around 15 members of Indian origin are there. So you can imagine the contribution of Indian in different facets of the society in UK. Now, this was about UK. Coming to the rest of Europe, in other parts of Europe where English is not the official language, which poses some sort of language barrier, Despite that, Indians have contributed significantly in the economic development of the host country, especially in the field of information technology. Almost every company or every sector, be it banking, finance, technology, medicine, science, or construction, at the back end, there is a huge team of IT people, and they are mainly Indians. Also, in my personal knowledge, some people have contributed in the field of startup as a co-founder or founder. I must say something about the country I'm living right now, and that is Belgium. I'm staying in the city of Antwerp, and the city of Antwerp is known as the diamond capital of the world. So what is so interesting about this Antwerp city is that for over 2 decades, Indians have dominated the international diamond trade market. And more than, surprisingly and interestingly, more than 85% of the rough diamond has to pass through Antwerp. So it means if anyone is wearing diamond, let's say in Japan, there's a very high probability that that diamond has gone through the hands of some Indian in Antwerp. And not only that, in Antwerp, we also have a very like 30 years old company called Gemini Corporation, who has contributed a lot in the field of recycling business. So there's also a multinational companies which was founded by a guy from Bikaner in Rajasthan. So you can imagine that, you know, Indians are there all over Europe, not only in Europe, all over the world, but wherever they are, they have contributed significantly in various facets of the society. Now, interestingly, Belgium has got more than 50 companies which can be considered Indian, and they are adding a lot to the Belgian economy and providing employment. Now, European Union is viewing India as an emerging global power in the world. Therefore, they have intensified their focus on lots of bilateral cooperation in different sectors such as trade, investment, culture, education, science and technology, military and defense engagement, etc. Seeing this, many countries have started, having a lot of Indic department or Center for India Studies. For example, the India Studies in the university where I studied from, where I did my PhD from, that is KU Leuven University. In last, I think 3 or 4 years, they have started Leuven Institute of India Study. Now, this indirectly says the importance of India among European government body. So another interesting thing is that we all know we have a like NASA is for USA, ISRO is for India. ISRO means Indian Space Research Organization. So how many of you know that the world first satellite? I mean, not the world first. I mean, many European countries have launched their first satellite with the help of ISRO, and they were launched from Satish Dhawan launching pad in India. So there's some of the things which we are not aware of, and this clearly says that indicate that how much Indians have contributed and how the world is viewing India as a emerging global economy in the world.
I have a very specific question for Manish Gupta ji. You are a scientist and you are doing very amazing and wonderful work. I have seen on LinkedIn, a lot of people are appreciating you regarding your personal contribution in this pandemic. I want to know from you about the contribution of Indians or India in this pandemic, especially regarding the vaccination, facts and figures, because you are the man of this field. And I know like people will be very eager to know about vaccination and COVID-19 from you. So please, can you just give us some details about that?
So, COVID pandemic situation is really an unfortunate situation for the world today. However, we must really acknowledge and appreciate our pharma scientists all over the world. that for their contribution, which is really enormous. And in a very short span of time, they were able to come up with the antidote, that is vaccination, RNA vaccine for to counter COVID. However, India and Indians particularly are not behind in their contribution in tackling COVID. In my previous company, where I worked at, that was Pfizer, I personally know two Indians who were sitting at the top and driving this RNA vaccine development manufacturing drive. And one of them was from Pune, and she was even, her contribution was so huge that she was even acknowledged by a major newspaper of US. I think it was Washington Post, maybe I'm wrong, I don't remember that. Now, not only Pfizer, even in the company where I'm working now, that's GSK, here also, I see that in a lot of senior positions, in a lot of top management positions, Indians are sitting over there. Be it R&D or manufacturing or sales or strategy department, they all are, Indians are quite at the forefront to drive the health sector forward and also indirectly or directly boosting the economy. Another thing, in terms of like how COVID has benefited India, of course, many people died in India, which was unfortunate. But let me tell you that, I'm not sure about the data, but I heard that number of people who died in India, per million population is quite low compared to other parts of the world, even if you take the worst case scenario. So what I feel is that COVID has also raised the profiles and fortunes of India's pharma entrepreneurs. See, the world is recognizing India as pharmacy of the world. During COVID times, India has supplied COVID vaccine of more than 66 million doses to more than 97 countries in the world, which were manufactured by Serum Institute India and Bharat Biotech. This was done under the banner of Vaccine Maitri Initiative. Vaccine Maitri means vaccine friendship, which is a humanitarian initiative undertaken by the government of India. Even developed countries like UK and Canada received these vaccines under this initiative. Seeing this, many countries in the world is seeking now bilateral cooperation with India in the field of health and life science sector. Another interesting fact to be noted is that in a time span of less than 1 year, we were able to impart 1 billion doses to our people, which shows India's efficiency and its fantastic management skill. Otherwise, to vaccinate 1 million doses to a country like India in such a short span of time with the resources we have is not so easily doable compared to developed countries. Now, this effort of the government was really well received by the Director General of World Health Organization and also many countries in the world. You can imagine, there are many poor countries in the world, to whom big pharma company or big, so-called developed countries, they don't even look at them as well. But Indian government have really helped them a lot, and India has really received a lot of appreciation from those government from those countries.
My next question is very interesting, and it's about the most amazing and dynamic person of India, and it's none other than our Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, who has changed India, and he has taken India to the another level in the entire world. I was very honored and privileged when he visited South Africa. I was part of the ushering committee, and I was honored to meet him personally also. And it was a very divine experience. But I want to know from you how you see India before Modi ji and after he took over. So the journey of last 7 years, what do you feel about that? It's very, very important to understand from all of you as you are staying in the various part of the world. I like to know your opinion, your views about it.
So obviously with the honored Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji Prime Minister Scott Morrison there, and the Prime Ministers before him in Australia, there's been a lot of very positive changes, I would say, from my vantage point as a person living in Australia with very clear ties to India. I think firstly, you know, with that historic trip, which happened in 2014, where first time in 3 decades, Indian Prime Minister came to Australia. I know many of our network here in Australia, in Sydney, we went to the event, we saw the energy, we saw the excitement. I actually remember there was a famous quote from an Australian, I believe it's an Australian government official, who when he saw the reception which you know, Australians and Indians alike gave to Shri Narendra Modi ji, he said, "I've never seen a reception like this," which is says a lot about the excitement with which this new era of Shri Modi ji and the Australian Prime Ministers who have collaborated with him, the energy which came about with his arrival in Australia. So I think that excitement is extended to many different fields. I touched on it earlier, where Indians are contributing to different areas of science, engineering, medicine, social impact. I'd say that that's actually been a really good collaboration. So we've got, you know, obviously in science and engineering, the skill of Indian scientists and engineers can't be understated. And so there's many collaborative efforts going on between Indian and Australian bred engineers. In the education space is another big one, where we have vocational education programs going on, where Indian students are coming to Australia and Australian students are going to India for different subjects, exchange programs, things like that, which is very positive, where you have, you know, not only working styles being shared across continents, but you've also got expertise with, especially, you know, the more physical engineering sciences. There's just different levels of expertise also in different things, because as I mentioned, Australia is a very it's a very coastal kind of population, but there's a lot of research going on in agriculture, in solar, in renewables at large. A lot of this can and is being shared with Indian cities and Indian efforts going on within India. So a lot of really amazing stuff going on there. I'd also say the research alliances is a clear thing that I noticed as not only as a thesis student, but also just generally. Anytime I come across a lecturer or a PhD researcher who is doing an interesting project, and I start asking them about it, there's definitely always mention of you know, IITians from India helping collaborate on some of these efforts. Also Indians in American universities who are heading different, you know, sections of those universities. So a lot of excitement and a lot of growth in that area. And I'd also say trade is another big one, where, you know, the free trade that goes on between the two countries is just, it's a marvel of the modern world, where we have a really positive relationship on that front as well.
India before Modi as Prime Minister and after Modi as Prime Minister, yes, there is a huge difference. I can see and I can comment on that as well. But before that, I would like to highlight a couple of more things. We got independence in 1947. Before that, before 1947, we were ruled by Britishers, and before that, some other people also. There had been so much of damages done to the country, to its monuments, to its culture, to its education also, I would say in one way, that correcting all those with any kind of reform is not that easy for anyone. It's not that easy. And it cannot be just one man show. The whole nation, or at least most of the people from the nation, need to sync with the same thinking and same understanding for any kind of changes to be done, any kind of correction to be done. So with that thought, what I see is what Prime Minister Modi has been doing is an incredible job. He has lots of different kinds of idea to make some reforms at the grassroots level as well as at the top level. He has been able to implement those things. Yes, maybe for the first 5 years, it was not that much possible because it was very new at that time point. But in the second phase, when he returned, it was very different for him probably because he understood what is happening, what has happened, and what need to be done. If some of the couple of examples, if I pick out from, say, professional side also, Jan Dhan Yojana, through which the opportunity for all the poor people, they have got the opportunity to open the bank account with zero balance. 500 million people in India, just in one go, got the bank account. Although with zero bank balance, fine, but they have the bank account. And I think it was a very right move in terms of development. Similarly, if I talk about, say, health insurance, health facilities provided to the poor people in terms of insurance, the government is providing free of charge health insurance to the poor people. Each and every state, the central government and the state government is financing it. Not a single person nowadays is giving, poor people at least, they are giving any single money for the health treatment. Health insurance has become so easy in India right now for everyone. Similarly, if we talk about the modernization of the world today, everyone is moving towards digitization. India being so huge, such a huge population, 130 crore population, movement towards digitization was very important thing. In today's time, even the poor person, at least one person in the house is having a mobile. The communication has become so easy nowadays, very easy. How does it happen? Because of the digitization move of India. It's not that easy thing to do. These are the things which need some courage, which need some effort to make things happen. Otherwise, it is not possible. And the syncing is very, very important. Very important. The other point which I want to highlight is, which was missing probably in the past time, and that is the international position of India. India is a big country. Population is huge. Contribution to the world from India is also very, very important. However, what I see, especially after coming to Singapore and observing things, being as an outside in the country and then observing things, what I see is Prime Minister Modi has taken a very fine step to have collaboration with most of the foreign countries and the powerful countries. It's not that easy. It's a very difficult thing. And now what I see is most of the powerful countries, they consider India as also a powerful country. It is. It's not that easy. So how that bilateral dialogue and discussion has happened between India and the other foreign countries is very important. And it was a very nice move. And that's how the contribution of NRIs from different countries to India has significantly changed after Modi has come. Modi has become an iconic figure, not just in India or for India, worldwide. Many people talk about him. Many people, the way he talks, the way he takes decision, the way he's changing the India, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. So there has been some difficult decisions which Prime Minister has taken. If I talk about terrorism in India has reduced significantly because of some specific moves. The Kashmir issue, the dialogue with Pakistan, the dialogue with Sri Lanka, the dialogue with Bangladesh, the dialogue with other neighboring countries have changed. The image of India has changed. And this was possible because of Modi. So before Modi and after Modi, every single prime minister is different. That's true for each and every time. Prime Minister Modi lives for the country, for the development of the country. The only motive he has is to make India the superpower. Nothing less than that. And he is putting all of his efforts to make India the superpower. And I think the way he is moving, and if the people around him, people like us, people of India, if support him, I am sure he will bring India to the superpower. Think about his life. He sleeps only for 4 hours. That's what I know. Which prime minister sleeps for 4 hours? And other than that, those 4 hours, all the hours, 20 hours, is just about India, India, and India. I believe that even when he is doing his personal tasks, he might have been thinking about development of India itself. But nevertheless, when I'm talking about the era before Modi and era after Modi, era before Modi is huge, huge time, long time. And era after Modi means since last 2014, it's just 7 years. It's tiny in front of the past time. It's not possible to compare exactly the past time and the current 7 years. Probably, in my opinion, Prime Minister Modi, if he continues the way he is or even better than this, he needs more time, definitely. And more than that, he needs support from all of us. There is at least one person, and there might be many others, who are willing to develop the country, who are willing to reform, who are willing to correct India, the Bharat, the way it was centuries back, the ancient India, the superpower India. I think I will be one of those people who would like to support Prime Minister Narendra Modi to make India a superpower to this world. Thank you.
Well, I think I've been asked this question before about my views about Prime Minister Modi's leadership in state of India after Modi's taking over the leadership as the Prime Minister. And I personally believe that a good leader offers direction, and he or she is not shy from making difficult decisions, and brings good governance. And since 2014, India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi ji, has made some path-breaking decisions, and he has checked underperformance and has improved direct communication. If you look at Jan Dhan Yojana, right, launched in August 2014, opening of bank account is one of the largest drive for financial inclusion of low-income population in India. Building their financial literacy and providing access to credit, insurance, pension facility is one of the best schemes that I've ever heard about in India. Declaration of International Day of Yoga. I think a lot goes to the thoughts and the leadership and the negotiation and the bringing the concept on the international arena. A lot of that goes, I think, to Prime Minister Modi ji and his team. Demonetization, one of the toughest decisions to make, right? But it has helped to crack the economic divide in the society to a larger extent, I would say. Even crack terror operations around India. At the same time, if you look at the digitization approach that has been taken by the Modi government, GST regime has made tax collection and the payment quite transparent, right? And more than that, I think Prime Minister Modi ji's visit to international countries has fostered really strong relations of India with the other parts of the world. Companies like Walmart, companies like Amazon have launched their operations in India. Facebook and Google are now investing in one of our largest enterprises like Reliance. I think all of these are a big thumbs up to the global confidence in the Indian leadership, and my heartiest I would say congratulations as we look with hope to Prime Minister Modi ji and his team.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question. I came to Belgium in 2011 December, so now it's almost 10 years, more than 10 years. So, and Modi ji became Prime Minister in 2014 May. So I can really compare India before and after Modi ji, and also I can see the narrative of India among Western people before and after Modi became the prime minister. So one thing is for sure that when Modi ji when he became a prime minister, he has really given a sense of hope that India can become Vishwa Guru again. He has taken lots of initiatives in that direction. Now, his main focus has been towards, the upliftment of people who are living below the poverty line. And and he has taken out many initiatives, many yojanas, out of which, for me, two of them are really a favorite one. One is Jan Dhan Yojana, where this yojana ensures that every people in India must have a bank account, so that if they want to save some money, even one rupee per day or 1 rupee in 1 month, they can do that. I mean, they have that option. Now, another yojana that I liked most was is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, where the aim of this yojana is to ensure that the pakka house, a house made of brick, is given to every people, including slum dwellers. Now, when I say every people, I mean those who don't have it. So having a house, having a roof over your head is the basic necessity a human being needs. It's been more than 70 years. We got independence, and still our countrymen has no house to live. So can you imagine this? I mean, I'm not sure what we have been doing in the past, in the last 70 years. At least if you come to Europe, I mean, okay, in Europe also, rich people are there, poor people are there, but you don't find people, sleeping on the roadside in the night, So whereas in India, before Modi ji was there, I mean, it was quite common to see along the railway station and other places. But now, at least because of this yojana, many people have started getting houses, and I can really see the changes. And another initiative which government Modi ji has taken is like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, I mean, the best example is Varanasi. I've been visiting Varanasi from last 10 years, and in last 2-3 years, and as a Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, because of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, I can see the big changes in Varanasi. I'm not saying all places are clean, but many places have become quite clean, especially the Ganga River side. Now, Modi ji has also taken a lot of efforts towards increasing FDI and boosting our infrastructure, because without infrastructure, your country cannot grow and cannot develop. Now, he has also put a lot of efforts on digital India, so that all transaction and a lot of paperwork can be digitized, so that things can become faster and in a more efficient way. And Modi ji has also taken initiative to change the education system curriculum of India. Why? Because otherwise, this our whole education syllabus or curriculum was more focused into rote learning, which was definitely not good for the mental health of our young generation. Now, Modi ji has also taken initiative to drive the campaign for Make in India, and many flagship programs were also taken under the banner of Digital India, which I've already mentioned. So we can see that, since Modi ji came to power, so many leaders of the different countries have also started building good relations with India. So, and that is quite almost every one or the other day, you'll be hearing about that. So, and on the political side, I really feel that Modi ji has taken some tough decision on Ram Mandir issue, Article 370 issue, CAA, and Triple Talaq, which had been, these issues have been plaguing India in terms of growth and development. Otherwise, in the past, even if the government wants to take a decision which is for the benefit of India, then those decisions will be politicized in the name of Ram Mandir, Article 370, etc. So what Modi ji has done, he has sorted out these matters once and for all.
My next question is to Simant Prakash ji. Honorable Narendra Modi ji has taken yoga to UN, and UN has taken yoga to the entire world. Entire world is getting benefited, but we need to understand from you the contribution of yoga. And obviously, you were part of Vihangam Yoga team when it was getting accredited with UN ECOSOC. So I want to know more details from you about the contribution of yoga, and specifically, I know you wanted to chat about Vihangam Yoga. So the floor is open for you, Simanji.
I think one of the biggest contribution, or I would say one of the biggest gifts that India has given to the world is basically its yogic science, right? India clearly is one of the oldest living civilizations today. Hindu culture is one of the oldest established religion, which has been passed through the backbone of this Vedic science and what we call the Guru Shishya Parampara over many thousand years. We have brought, I think the Indian community has brought, our Vedic and our Sanatan Hindu culture to every country where we have went. And this has allowed, to also to keep the succession of this Vedic culture, our Hindu culture alive for future. Declaration of International Yoga Day by UN, I think is a big recognition to our deep-rooted Rishi culture that has taken the global wellness industry by a storm currently. Yoga and wellness has created, I would say, self-employment for many youths around the world today. Interestingly, even more than 600 million vegetarians are around in the world today, right? Which collectively I think is more than the population of many developed nations of the world. Okay. Then when I look at the philosophies that comes from our Vedic and Indian society, on Gauseva, on the Kumbh congregation, on Ayurveda, the scientific theories behind Havan Yag is now being embraced by different cultures around the world. And I think these are one of the reasons why NRIs are loved by their host countries. Indian families are giving more focus, have always, I would say, given more focus on well-being and happiness rather than pure economic success. Value systems, provided by the Indian Vedic culture has been recognized, right? If you look at some of our great scriptures, like Bhagavad Gita or Swarveda by Sadhguru Sthapal Devji Maharaj, right? These have got embedded, strong, moral values, business values, right? And world's top most businesses are now entrusting, Indian professionals, with their large business empires. If you look at companies like Microsoft, Google, PepsiCo, Mastercard, they have all entrusted, huge business empires, on Indian professionals. Primarily, in my view, is because of the strong rooted, value systems that Indian professionals, carry with themselves, because of our roots, to the Indian Vedic culture. Now, remember that, we embrace our struggles. Okay, we fight the devil, and we also fight our own demonic thoughts, through the Brahm Vidya, Vedic science, that have been taught to many of us, since our childhood. We love celebrations with a number of festivals throughout the year, and we also involve everyone around. Like, I can talk about, East Africa, Diwali, the festival lights is almost on the verge of being declared, probably as a public holiday, and the Asian community has been included, and recognized, as one of the local tribes, specifically in Kenya.
Subhashi, recently you were in India. There is a lot of development happening in Ayodhya. We have seen there is a beautiful construction of temple of Sri Ram is going on. Also, Honorable Prime Minister visited Varanasi. He also took a holy dip into Ganga. And then also he visited Swarved Mahamandir Dham, where you were present as a part of a committee from Swarved Mahamandir Trust. So I want to know your views about your visit to such kind of holy places. I'm sure you will be visiting Varanasi from many years. And what is the change, or what do you feel now about all these changes happening? I want to understand from you.
recently, last month only, I visited to India and I got an opportunity to go to Varanasi, Prayagraj, and some other associated cities as well. And I have noticed some changes compared to when I visited these places 4, 5, 6 years back. I think one of the important facts which I would like to highlight here is whichever city we are talking about, if the transportation system means the road, the commute is not very good, then the development will not happen. And I noticed in Varanasi this time is that the roads have become fantastic. From airport of Varanasi, if you go to anywhere, it is so well connected now with the highway that it just takes few minutes to reach out to whichever nooks and corner you want to go with, you want to go for. So I think transportation is one important thing which I have seen changes in those places. So Varanasi, Prayagraj, and say Ayodhya, these are historically spiritual centers. And even today also in India, these are historically spiritual centers right now also. People visit these places for that reason, for a spiritual reason. But when we talk about the development, when we talk about the living of the people at those places, we cannot change them to the industrial places. It's not possible. So what the government, local government, and I think central government trying to do for these historical spiritual centers is that they're trying to convert these cities with some modernization, and but keeping those Vedic system at its own places, not disturbing and changing those. I think recreation, rejuvenation of these places, as well as beautification and infrastructure creation has become very prime for the government nowadays. Recently, when I visited Varanasi, I got an opportunity to visit Vihangam Yoga's Swarved Mahamandir Dham, which is a gigantic meditation center made up now, where I think roughly around 20,000 people can sit in that structure to meditate at one time. 20,000 people, it's so gigantic. Roughly around 300,000 square feet area the whole structure is, and the height is roughly around, I think, 164 feet. Prime Minister visited that place on the occasion of 98th anniversary of Vihangam Yoga, which was celebrated at this structure, Swarved Mahamandir Dham. I think Prime Minister Modi has some bright ideas all the time, and that's how he has been successful in many places in India. Whenever, whichever new ideas he brings, it becomes a new thing for each and every one. Here also, when the current master Sadhguru Swatantra Dev Ji Maharaj went to invite Prime Minister Modi, then Prime Minister said that why you are just making this as 98th anniversary of Vihangam Yoga. There is one very fine thing with Sadhguru Sadafal Dev Ji Maharaj, who is the pioneer of Vihangam Yoga. He fought for freedom of India in 1920-21, and right now we are in the era of 1921, and right now we are in 2021. It's 100 years of that event. Why don't we keep this as celebration of 100 years of the freedom fighter going to the jail? And this will exactly coincide with the Azadi Ka Mahotsav, which we are celebrating this year as the 75th Independence Day of India. So this came from Prime Minister Modi itself as a bright idea, and at Vihangam Yoga, along with 98th anniversary of Vihangam Yoga annual function, people celebrated with Prime Minister as 100th anniversary of the jail visit of Sadhguru Sadafal Dev Ji Maharaj. What I need to say here is there are lots of ideas which are there, but the implementation is most important thing, and I think Prime Minister Modi has been taking it very seriously for all these spiritual cities. Similarly, in Banaras, when he went for the inauguration of the corridor at Vishwanath Mandir, it itself is an example of modernization of all those places, making them as clean as possible, as hygiene as possible. These simply would become a very nice tourist places. They are already, but now if you go and visit those places, you will see how attractive those places are. The Ganga Ghat at Varanasi and all other ghats where earlier people used to go there just because of they had to go, but now people can go there as a tourist to see it through how exactly it is. So changes have started happening in all these places. If I talk about, say, Ayodhya, earlier people attitude was very different in Ayodhya. Everyone was saying, oh, bas Ram bharose hai sab kuch. But now the government has started intermingling the community centers to involve them according to their capability, their caliber, to develop the city with its own characteristics, with its own properties, with its own uniqueness. It's the place of Ram. It's the place of Bhagwan Sri Ram. And it has its own uniqueness. It has its own characteristic. We can't change that. So I think the development of all these cities have started taking place. And I remember one more thing, the cruise in Varanasi, in the river. Can you imagine? You can go on cruise now for one night or maybe 1.5 days on that particular cruise to spend time. Here from Singapore, we go to cruise, we're spending so much of money for 1 day, 2 days, 1 night, 2 nights, and so on and so forth. You can have cruise on Ganga River anytime. It is possible now. So I think my visit to Varanasi this time was very, very different and very unique. I could see the changes, and I believe the changes will continue the way it is. And one day, all these spiritual cities where these temples are there, I was amazed to know just in Ayodhya, can you imagine? Just in Ayodhya, roughly around 7,000 to 8,000 temples are there. It's such a beautiful place. If you visit there and see the modernization and beautification are being done, where all of the walls of the houses are being painted by the whole life of Bhagwan Sri Ram and all those kind of things. These are involving the employment for all those kind of people in that particular city also. So modernization is happening, but still the originality is being kept, and that's the beauty what is happening to all these spiritual places. Thank you.
We all are patriots, but obviously I have a special question for Dr. Manish Gupta ji, because he has participated in the support of CA rally at the United Nations head office. And Manish ji, you are aware that currently there is a lot of propaganda against India, whether it's against the removal of Article 370, or it's an issue of CAA, or it's a farmers' protest, or the issue of minorities, and specifically about the Muslims, where the facts and figures have been distorted by certain nations. And we know certain medias are playing against India, certain NGOs, they have been funding like protest in Shine Bagh, or it's a farmer protest. There have been a lot of foreign funding which is coming in India, and it's trying to destabilize India. So I want to know from you, like, what is your opinion about all this propaganda? And obviously, before I close my question, I today received one very hilarious joke, and in that two nationals, one Pakistani and one Indian, are sitting in airport waiting for their flight. And the Pakistani says that, look, I feel ISIS and RSS both are same. And the Indian replies, he says, okay, let's start shouting, I'm an RSS member, and you start shouting, you are an ISIS member, and let us see what happens. So over to you, Manish ji.
Yeah. So see, there are lots of propaganda worldwide against India is going on by countries with vested interest in the name of Citizenship Amendment Bill, Ram Mandir issue, Article 370 issue, Triple Talaq, and they are using these sensitive topics as weapons to project India as anti-minority, or India is something like, it is against Muslim or Sikh, or, they are projecting as if, every day massacre is happening in India, and all Muslims or Sikhs are being killed, something like that. So, which is really unfortunate. What is irony is that on one hand, many developed countries want to make good bilateral relation with India because India is emerging as a global power in the world. But at the back end, they won't hesitate funding activities which is against the national interest. Indian government has passed a law against triple talaq because triple talaq was affecting Indian Muslim women, especially women from the poor background. I'm not sure why we want to treat Muslim women, especially those poor Muslim women, so unfairly. See, even countries like Bangladesh, Malaysia, Jordan, Algeria, Iraq, UAE, Indonesia, Kuwait, Morocco. In these countries, the state religion is Islam. Even in Pakistan, where the state religion is Islam, in all these countries, the triple talaq is banned. So they all have banned triple talaq because it is considered un-Islamic. Then why shouldn't India ban it? Just because India has to fear the negative publicity of the Western media, should India not take a step in the right direction in the national interest? Bills should have been passed long ago, but thanks to Modi government that it finally happened under his tenure. India is a country which has given opportunity to its minority population like Muslim or Sikh to hold the highest constitutional offices of India. For example, Sri Hamid Ansari ji, who was our vice president, Sri Abdul Kalam ji, he was our president. And in fact, Abdul Kalam ji was made president under the leadership of BJP government only. Now, Zakir Hussain Khan ji was also our president. Other than this, there are so many ministers who are holding important ministries in India. In fact, they all come from Muslim background. In fact, the state where I come from, Manipur, its governor is also a Muslim lady. Her name is Najma Heptullah ji. So now you can tell me, if India was or India government strategy is against Muslim, then how did these people reach the highest post? So we also, not only that, we also have Sikh Prime Minister who Dr. Manmohan Singh ji, who served the PMO office for more than 10 years. So how many highest posts have been occupied in Pakistan by minority population? Can you name one Hindu president in Pakistan or Hindu prime minister in Pakistan? I'm not sure we can ever say that. So Modi, and another important thing to notice is that Modi ji has been honored by six Islamic state countries for 6 different times. For example, Maldives, Saudi Arabia, UAE, with their highest civilian award. Now, if Modi was really against Muslim, why this the hub of Islamic nation? Why they would promote, or why they would welcome Modi ji? Why, right? So there's something we all have to think about. Now, also, people also say that Sikh people are being targeted, or Sikh is like they are not a part of India, or a lot of pro Khalistani movement is also taking place in the world. So now, I mean, if India was having this mentality like something against Sikh and all, then how come our government has declared 26th December as Veer Bal Divas and treating December 26th as a public holiday? This is nothing but a tribute to the bravery and martyrdom of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji's sons. Now, Guru Gobind Singh Ji was the 10th and the last Sikh Guru. Now, this decision was fully welcomed by Sikh community across the globe, including UK. Recently, Sikh community gathered at Gurudwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha in South Hall, and passed a resolution against Khalistani movement and anti-India propaganda, and thanked our PM Modi for doing so much for the Sikh community. It is this government who has started celebrating Guru Nanak Jayanti in all overseas Indian embassy. How many news of this type did you see in Western media, which was in favor of Sikh and Muslims in India? Now, another weapon that is being used by anti-India propagandists is that CA bill, which was enacted into law in December 2019. by Indian government is that it is against Indian Muslims, and eventually, this law will displace all Muslims in India, and they will be put into detention center or and whatnot. Now, in fact, the CAA has nothing to do with the Indian Muslim present in India. This law is all about allowing migration of persecuted minority population in the name of religion, religion in three different neighboring countries, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. Now, do you agree or not that population of Hindu, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist has been dwindling since independence, and the victims are and those victims, and the victims of this religious persecution of minority in those countries are not some rich or affluent minority, but they are poor and helpless ones. So in the name of religion, either they are killed, they are raped, or they are forced to convert into to change their religion. So I mean, is this fortunate or unfortunate? You have to ask yourself. And also, I know personally a couple of people from Sindh part of Pakistan who were looking for seeking asylum in US or European countries. When I asked them, why not you try in India, and so they are like, okay, Indian law is very complex, and it doesn't allow us to seek refuge in Delhi so easily. So although they wanted to come to India because they're afraid of their life being in Pakistan because of religious persecution, but still they cannot come to India because there was no law. So this CAA is nothing but a law to help those type of people. Now, I'll give you another instance where this how CAA has helped in Afghanistan recently. So what happened in Afghanistan, as you all know, that Taliban coup has taken place, where Talibanis took control of the government over there. And now, because of this, majority of the people, especially Hindus, Sikh, and other ethnic minority people, were started fleeing the country. Now, thanks to CAA, that many Sikh people started seeking refuge in India. Condition in Afghanistan was so horrible that even the member of Parliament of Afghanistan, Mrs. Narinder Singh Khalsa, was also extremely unsafe. So, in such a situation, what would happen to poor Hindus or Sikh or Afghanistan? What should they do? Article 370. So this is something we have to think about. Now, another weapon that is used against India is Article 370. See, Article 370 was repealed. It was abrogated. It is just for the benefit of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Modi ji took the historic decision to repeal Article 370 from Indian Constitution, and converting J&K from an independent state to union territories. This news was widely criticized by Western media with vested interest, but this decision was taken for the people of J&K. After this decision, the enormous opportunity for growth and investment has opened up in Kashmir. Private investors can invest and boost the economy of the state, and eventually more job opportunities will come up. Because of this decision, the corruption that was taking place in J&K can be curbed very easily. Now, and on the top, authorities are in a better position to curb terrorism and instill peace in the valley. Kashmiri women can have share in their father's property, even if they married outside J&K. Now, is this decision not in national interest? If this decision was not so welcoming, then why did United Arab Emirates government, why did UAE government has signed a memorandum of understanding with Indian government for investing for business purpose in J&K? UAE is willing to invest in J&K. It's all because of it's all happening because of abrogation of Article 370. So I think we must definitely welcome this decision of government, and we should look at the positive side of abrogation of 370.
Now I'm coming to the important or the main question of this webinar, and that is contribution of Indians or the NRIs to India. I really need to understand, like, what is your opinion? How do you feel like how are NRIs contributing to India? We need to understand from all of you. I'm sure some points will be repeated, but don't hesitate about it. We would like to understand from each and everyone that what is the current contribution or from many years, how NRIs are contributing towards India. Let us know from every one of you. Let us start talking about the main topic for which we are gathered here today for this webinar.
Of NRIs to India. I think there can be many aspects about this. Definitely the first thing which comes to the mind is the money. I think most of the people who are NRIs have gone out from India for whatever reason they had. The countries where they are residing, most of them are having a strong currency. Say like right now I'm in Singapore, say US or Europe or even Middle East also. They're all strong currency countries. And the very single thing is, and a very simple thing is that contribution by NRIs to their family members in terms of the money has been very significant. And not just that, along with this, the investment portion in India is very, very important by these NRIs. They are the source of development at their places, at their native places probably, and not just that, maybe in some of the schools, in some of the hospital places and all those kind of things, NRIs have been contributing a lot. But I'm not going to highlight all those things. Maybe my other speakers, panelists, they would be speaking more about what are the contributions of NRIs to India. I want to touch upon one or two specific things in a different way. I think this is very true for each and every Indian who is residing outside India, is that they have given the value at their home country. Oh, this person, oh, you are staying in so-and-so country. Oh, that country is very nice country, like that. So people who are residing outside India, they have importance at their home country. What does that mean? What I see is anything what NRI do, those things are being taken very seriously, at least by the people at his native place, or in that particular town, or in that particular district, if the things are done very nicely. One of the important thing out of that is connection with the culture, and also Desh Bhakti, the patriotism. I think if I see myself, when I came out from India and came to Singapore, I really missed a lot of things in India. And one of them is the culture. In Singapore, all Indian culture is very much available. There is no problem, no doubt at all. But still, being in your own country and being in another country, there is a difference because of the people itself. So I have missed a lot of things in India. And because of that, what happens? I myself try to find out lots of things, knowing things, understanding things about my culture. My culture means the Indian culture, as well as knowing more detail about India, which probably I did not know those things when I was in India. So what happens is when we are in India, we take a lot of things for granted. And there is nothing, no problem in that. There is nothing wrong in that. It's fine. But when a person going out from India, it's a natural love about the land, about the country, that we miss few things about the country. And what happens thereafter is that when you thereafter you go back to meet your family members in India and you talk about all these kind of things, it gives a very different kind of value to those people who probably are missing out at their root level, those cultures. So what I see is there are many people who are right now in India, they are losing out connection from the Indian culture, the historic or ancient culture, but people who are residing outside India, they are more connected about the culture of India. That's what I feel is, and I feel about myself as well. And similarly about patriotism, I feel very different about India after I came out from India in terms of patriotism. It is very different. I don't know, I am not able to express probably, but I think the contribution of NRIs towards maintaining and giving importance and value to the culture itself is very important. What I see is, what I think is, for any one person, any single person, there are very few items which we want in our life. But one of the important things which bring the richness in our life is the culture itself. That doesn't mean that we don't want to learn or we would not learn the other cultures. Yes, whichever country we are in, we learn the culture of that country as well. But the originality of the Indian culture is very different. Coming out from India connects me more about my culture in a very, very different and in a very, very soothing way. And I think I'm more connected to India after I came out from India. I'm sure each and every, not every, but most of the NRIs are feeling, or they do feel the same thing about this culture thing. Same, they feel themselves being more connected to India. I think this is the real asset of all the NRIs towards India, which I would definitely like to continue the way it is even at right now. Thank you.
Yeah, if you talk about contribution of NRI in the growth of Indian economy, I would say that though the NRIs, if you talk about the population wise, NRIs are just very, very tiny percentage of the total population that India has, but the contribution of NRIs are very significant. According to United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs, countries such as US, UK, Canada, and the Middle East, they account for the majority of NRIs who significantly contribute to the growth of Indian economy. They say that their contribution helps create job on a big scale in India by strengthening national savings, investment, capital accumulation, and so on. In fact, if I take the example of my own village, it's Manpur Patwacholi, and the contributions of the people who are outside that village for that village is immense. In terms of the remittance that the family receive from the NRIs, it helps the family to invest that, in their business, in the growth of their business, or to, invest in schooling, healthcare, so many other things. In fact, according to a report by World Bank in 2020, India received more than $83 billion in remittance, despite the COVID-19 pandemic. So you can understand that the amount of remittance that is happening every year from NRIs across the world to India is definitely, a boon to India, I will say. And NRIs, once they go outside country, they, the majority of them will become patriotic. So they start contributing not only towards the financial growth, but several charities. For example, in our village itself, we have set up library, we have set up study centers, we have set up schools, and that is adding a lot of value in the growth of that village, because now every year there are more than 10, 20 engineers being produced from that place. That place is known as Manpur Patatoli today is known as village of IITians. Why? Because there's a sustainable model now, which has been created in terms of the culture. The culture is that the seniors who pass out, they start devoting their time for coaching their juniors, guiding their juniors for preparing for all these engineering exam, and all the financial supports and guidance, they're all received by not only NRIs but also motivated by such initiatives. Even the local businesses are also in support of it, because they have seen how this model is working in favor of making that village so popular. So this is just one example of my village. The NRIs I have been contributing similarly to several other places in India in the same fashion. In fact, whenever there is any kind of calamities, I have seen how Indians in America come together to raise all the fund and do all the needful from here. Being Indians, they really feel patriotic about it. And not only all this charity work, but when it comes to political endeavors, I have seen how people days and night work campaigning for their own preferred party, I would say. But whatever it is, but at least if the voting percentage has risen up in India, I think one of the reasons is that the NRIs have played a very active role in motivating people to go out and vote. So it's amazing. It's amazing how NRIs are contributing to India. They are definitely a boon to India. Thank you so much.
I think my answer to this one might be a bit odd perhaps, but I actually think one of the biggest things that NRIs have contributed to India is sharing with the rest of the world, especially, for myself based in Australia, with sharing with Australia what it means to be Indian. And I think one of the biggest things there is there's kind of this very natural evangelism which has happened, where I know for myself, I work at a very high growth company at current. I'm very lucky to be in that position. We're constantly hiring engineers, product managers, UX specialists from around the world. When we hire individuals from India, there's always a few consistent things that we notice. And this is coming from a person who is Indian, so I understand this very well, having grown up with these values. But I think it reflects in how people perceive you in the professional world, but also just in society in general. And to cut to the chase, we work very hard with honesty, and that leads to high levels of trust, not only in our skill, but also in our heart and where our heart is. And I think that just carries so much weight, because I think, if you were the first Indian to land on Australian shores and you were looking for a job, or, you even if you had any level of expertise, I'm sure it would have been a different story to what society and what things look like today, where if an Indian is applying for a job, obviously it's not special. It's very normal. But also, more importantly, I think there's a very positive perception of Indian people in the way they work, the way they live. Even in the social aspects, you don't see. Like I've lived in Australian neighborhoods through my entire childhood, and now my adolescent and my adult period. So never have I seen Indian people shying away from helping someone. Never have I seen Indian people not engaging with their community, with their neighborhood, and saying hello or saying, "How are you?" these things come very naturally to Australians, but they also come very naturally to Indians. So there's a very good match there in terms of value system, the way that we behave and act. And so that's had a very positive effect in my understanding, where when Australians think of India, they think very positively about it. I think I'd also say the contributions that Indians have had to Australian society has also meant that it paves the way for Indians who are looking to go outside of India for their education, for professional reasons. It can't be measured, where, you know, like, as I mentioned, Vision 2020 is a big one. Hospitals, cancer foundations. There's also a large foundation called the Seva Foundation. It doesn't even paint a constructed view of Indian society. It just paints a very authentic view of who we are and what our mother country has taught us, what our motherland teaches us, which is to always help those in need. So in the reverse way again, the contribution of NRIs to India in this way again is they are sharing the spirit of India with those outside of India who live in Australia. And that's really positive, I think, because the effect can't be measured as much as it can be felt in the way that Australians and people who live overseas actually engage with and perceive Indians. And I think also, obviously, being outside of India, there's a lot of individuals who are able to now go back to India and innovate and come back to India with an understanding of the global market. For myself, I'm in the technology space. There's endeavors which, for myself, I'm personally involved in, I know many in my industry are involved in, where they are starting to give back to our mother country, where with their expertise, with their understanding of the market that they now have an expertise in outside of India, they're able to go back to India and contribute innovation and contribute to where innovation is happening and invest in some of those companies and help them grow. I think, especially in the technology space, there's been a really, really positive shift in recent years where a really bustling startup ecosystem has emerged in India. And I know for myself, my understanding of this is there's a lot of very large companies where Indians in the US, in Australia, in different parts of the world who work in really large technology companies have taken their skills and taken their expertise and they've brought that back to India, and that's what they're giving back. And this just leads to such positive stimulation of the economy, but also just it cultivates the innovative spirit of India even more than it's always been an innovative country, but even more so in markets which maybe we don't have as much of an understanding of unless you are exposed to them in a context outside of India, where there's certain problems which you'll face as an Australian person or as a person in the US, which you may not face when you're in India, and the same goes the other way. There may be some problems you face whilst living in India which you don't experience in Australia. So with that understanding of the different problems, the companies that are emerging in India can not only serve Indians, but they can also serve the specific problems that Australians have, or the specific problems that those in the US have. And that's really how your business and your company starts to become very innovative and very focused and grows and grows and grows. So that's another big one, I would say.
I have a special question for young and dynamic Abhinav Kishore from Australia. I just want to know from you, what's your feeling about a relationship between India and Australia? I know there are a lot of things happening between these two great nations. As you are staying there, we would like to understand your view about the relationship between these two great nations.
So when it comes to Australia, I think, just to reflect on it very shortly, it's a multicultural society which very warmly welcomed me and my family. And it is what I consider to be a second home. India is the one home. It's the true home. It's where my heritage, where my culture is originates, and where it lives. And so I think the mixture of the two, for me personally, has given me a way to grow into who I am today. I really appreciate both of my homes, but there is always going to be a very strong pull towards where I come from. And so I would say the way that Australia has embraced Indians is remarkable. There's so many parts that in every city that I have been to in Australia, whether it's Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide or Darwin, Cairns, Perth even, there are Indian communities in each of these places. And each of these Indian communities, they prosper. Like there's nothing that really gets in the way. People in Australia embrace them. They allow them to be who they are. They also celebrate the same festivals. They get involved in Diwali, in Holi. It's fantastic. Like it's just a beautiful sharing of our culture. And I would also say equally the way Indians have embraced Australia and they are contributing to Australia is so inspiring. I grew up here for most of my childhood and adolescent period, and I'd say I had so many role models that I could look up to here, who, thanks to this wonderful relationship that India and Australia have, they gave me an example that I could look up to and move towards in my own life. And in particular, I'd say the skilled migrant community and the way in which the Australian and Indian governments have collaborated in allowing that migrant community to prosper has been fantastic for both India and Australia. You have entire generations of children growing up in Australia with access to a huge number of opportunities and role models in each of the fields that they may want to pursue. If they want to be a research scientist, there is a research scientist who understands their culture, has the same heritage, is Indian, and they can look up to them and say, I want to be like that person. If they want to be in technology, same thing. There's so many great examples. We can even see, in recent times, we've seen so many wonderful examples of technology companies. Their CEOs are starting to, with Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, and also I believe the CEO of Twitter as well now. There's just so many examples of inspiring Indians who you can look up to and grow into. I'd also say, to be more specific on the relationship between India and Australia as two nations, the way that both are collaborating together on the different aspects that I mentioned, trade, economics, technology, it gives a lot of confidence to me as a person in some of these fields that those problems will be solved, because we have some of the greatest minds in the world working on these problems. And it gives me great hope for the future, not only of India and Australia, but also for the world, where we have such difficult problems to solve. We have energy problems. We have so many things we need to look at. And with the skills that both those in Australia and those in India have coming together, I think it's just a matter of time until some of these things are solved. I think the only thing that we sometimes don't agree on is which cricket team to support. That's the only time there's a slight difference in opinion. But everything else, I think, like jokes aside, I think I only have positive things to say. And on a personal note, I believe the exposure that living in Australia has given me to individuals from all over the world, from Europe, from Asia, from Southeast Asia, from Iceland, from Switzerland, from anywhere and everywhere, the multicultural hub that Australia is, and the roots I have as an Indian have helped me not only share my culture and the way I look at the world with people all over the world, but also for me to understand how they look at the world. And I think on a personal note, that's given me so much growth and so much perspective that it just gives me even more admiration for where I come from and for the cultures, the many different cultures that I respect all over the world.
Simanji, you are a CA, so I have a very specific question for you. How do you see India's growth in next 10 years time? Because you are very good in the accounting section as well as the facts and figures of commercial growth. So I want to understand, how do you see India in next 10 years time?
Well, currently, in terms of India's economic growth, how things look like, probably in the next 10 years. First, I would like to say that, India's current GDP at around USD 2.9 trillion, dollars by itself is a momentous task, that has been achieved by India. Also, let's be aware that, we are still growing, at a rate of somewhere between 7 to 8%. And specifically, I believe that, the growth is going to be, as its peak, in this year and the next year, around at 9%, primarily because, we had a slowdown, because of COVID in the last couple of years. India's GDP per capita is around $1,900, per person. And one of the most fascinating things, about India is that India is one of the very few countries in the world that population is still growing, and it's growing at around 1%. Now, hypothetically, it looks like 1% growth is not much, but remember that India is growing on a very big base, right? With our population of around 130 crore people, when you grow by 1%, it's almost like you're adding a Belgium or a UAE or a Poland, almost every year, and with an average age of around 29, India has one of the youngest populations, globally. And clearly, India has used this population to its advantage, to its economic advantage, to boost its domestic demand and remain, to a considerable extent, insulated, from global economic shocks. Now, if you look at a lot of large global business giants, now are based in India, right? For example, if you look at Tata's acquisition of Chorus Steel, which is one of the largest private sector deal, done outside India. Again, if you look at Tata's acquisition of the Jaguar and the Land Rover brand, from Ford. If you look at the expanding, tech footprints of TCS and Infosys, these companies are now listed, on very tough, stock exchange markets like United States. These are some amazing, Indian stories, that have gone global. If you look at companies specifically in the automobile sector like Ashok Leyland, Tata Trucks, Mahindra Vehicles, you can see them around, at all major infrastructure projects, happening worldwide. If you look at our own Patanjali Group, turnover has now surpassed, more than 30,000 crores is the turnover of this group, and they have surpassed now companies like Dabur and Marico, and now challenging Unilever. During COVID, in the healthcare sector, if I can say from my own experience, now hospitals like Hiranandani, in Mumbai, they opened, video consultation, teleconsultations, by the best docs in the world. Bharat Biotech, manufactured Covaxin and brought, India at the forefront, of the global pharma R&D sector. All this talks, I think, greatly about the emerging Indian talent and the long-term corporate business potential of India to continue to capture the global business landscape.
We are almost at the end of our webinar. Time has been flowing, and we have a limitation. It's so interesting. Like, I want to keep chatting with all of you. You guys are full of information in various fields, whatever you are contributing, and whatever knowledge you have shared, it's very amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people have enlightened today about the contribution of NRIs. But let us have closing remarks from all of you.
And what I say is the world is going to be a single country. One world, one country. All of us are going to be a part of it. It will not matter after a few years where we live at, whether we are living in India, whether we are living in Singapore or in US. It would be so connected. Everything will be so connected with each other that the world itself will be considered as one country. In that case, and that probably I think that is going to happen very soon, in my opinion. In that case, what matters the most? I think we all are human beings. That would not change, at least in our life. We all are human beings. And our human being is recognized by our existence. All the human beings need to be together. Then only the peace would come. And I think this peace, which everyone wants one way or another, can only be possible when we move more towards spirituality. Only spirituality is one thing which can bring everyone in one umbrella. Otherwise, we would have differences. We would have, even if we live in just one world country, we will have differences. And there is no problem in that. But if you want to live in peace, we need to be under the same umbrella. And that we have to decide, we have to choose, we have to identify what we want from our life, where we want to move. I want a peaceful life. And I know, and I have experienced that peace can only come when we imbibe inside this spirituality, when our life becomes spiritual, when I live a spiritual life, then only it will be possible to be in the peaceful mode. So I would urge to each and every person, whoever is listening, to please think about this. Think about how you can move more towards a peaceful life. In my opinion, it can only be spirituality. And believe me, Prime Minister Modi is a spiritual person. Thank you very much. And again, at the end, I would like to thank Amit Moreji. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I would like to thank Indian Association of South Africa for organizing this wonderful webinar. And once again, thank you to all the panelists who have been together with me on this wonderful platform. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Well, at the end, I would just like to thank again Amit Moreji, Indian Association of South Africa, and my co-panelists who are global successful professionals for allowing me to share some of my thoughts on this great occasion. At the end, I would just like to say the message, from Swarveda, that Sukh Shanti sabko mile, yah updesh hamar, sara vishwa hamar hai, hum hai sab sansar. The essence of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Let's continue to spread as patriotic Indians, irrespective of which part of the world we are in. Jai Hind.
Yeah, I just want to extend my thanks to all the panelists, from Vijay to Simant to Subhash, Manish, and of course to our organizer Amit. Also to IASA and Amit, both. Thank you for organizing this platform. Thank you for giving us a place to share our thoughts and our experiences. I hope for all of you listening, there's something interesting for you to reflect on, to consider. I think in summary, in closing from my side, I would say India is one of the most ancient cultures in the world. I am extremely proud that I am able to call myself Indian, that I am Indian. I am extremely proud that I'm from a country that loves humanity, that is always trying to teach humanity how to be better. And I really, really hope that we are able to continue sharing the beauty of India with the rest of the world. So that's all I would say. Namaste and Jai Hind.
Finally, I would like to thank Amit Moriji. Thank you very much for inviting me here. It was a pleasure interacting with all of you, and it was good to learn something new from other panelists as well. I would also like to thank Indian Association South Africa's team for organizing this event, and Sukrit Wellness for supporting this event. Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
The time is here. We have to now say bye to all of you, to all the panelists, as well as to the viewers. This topic is very vast and we can go on for hours and hours, but we have limitations. So somewhere we have to stop. Maybe we will have another seminar or webinar where we can discuss more about the contribution of NRIs. We can go into the detail with specific points. Today, it was like an overall discussion on certain topics. And there are various aspects actually, which actually we need months and months to discuss about India, Indians, and the contribution of NRIs. So, guys, we will meet again. I would like to humbly thank you for giving your valuable time. Although you are from the various time zones, I really appreciate you took that efforts. Somewhere it's late night, somewhere it's early morning, somewhere it's afternoon, but you came in the love of Mother India and you have given your valuable time for this webinar. So thank you very much, Sri Vijay Kumar ji, Sri Simant Prakash ji, Sri Abhinav Kishore ji, Sri Manish Gupta ji, and Subhash ji from Singapore. So thank you very much, and thank you to all of our viewers. I will humbly request all of you to share this video, share our links as much as you can. So thank you very much, and in advance, I would like to say Happy Republic Day to all of you. Thank you, good night, take care, bye-bye. And Namaste, Jai Hind.